When most people hear the phrase average retirement income, they often imagine retirees living comfortably, enjoying generous pensions, robust savings, and a leisurely lifestyle funded by decades of careful financial planning. Yet the reality in America is far more complex, nuanced, and often quite surprising, revealing a picture of retirement that differs significantly from popular perception. The confusion begins with the term average, which can refer to either the mean or the median, two statistical measures that tell very different stories about retiree finances. According to recent U.S. Census Current Population Survey data, the median retirement income for Americans over the age of 65 stands at roughly $56,860, whereas the mean income is considerably higher at approximately $87,260. This discrepancy arises because a relatively small number of retirees with exceptionally high incomes, whether from sizable investment portfolios, lucrative pensions, or continued earnings through part-time work, pull the mean upward, creating the impression that retirees as a group are wealthier than they truly are. Understanding this distinction is crucial because while the mean can be skewed by outliers, the median represents the midpoint in the distribution of incomes, meaning half of retirees earn more and half earn less, and therefore offers a far more accurate reflection of the typical retiree's financial experience. When we examine the median numbers, it becomes apparent that retirement income is often lower than many Americans assume. For example, households of retirees aged 75 and older had a median income of just $47,790, whereas younger retirees aged 65 to 69 enjoyed a higher median income of around $68,860. This pattern highlights the natural decline in income as retirees age, primarily because employment or part-time earnings taper off, and individuals increasingly depend on fixed income sources such as Social Security benefits and systematic withdrawals from personal savings or retirement accounts. The decline is also influenced by healthcare costs and other age-related expenses, which often consume a larger share of a retiree's income over time, further emphasizing the gap between public perception and financial reality. These median figures reveal a sobering truth. For the typical retiree, income may hover near, or even fall below, the minimum level that financial planners deem necessary to maintain a modest but secure standard of living. Yet, despite these realities, many headlines tout record high retirement incomes, or booming retiree wealth, often citing mean income figures that can paint an overly optimistic picture of financial security in later life. While it is certainly true that some retirees enjoy significant wealth, the focus on averages and aggregate figures masks the widespread financial challenges that many older Americans face, including limited savings, insufficient pensions, or the necessity of supplementing Social Security with part-time work. This disconnect between perception and lived experience underscores the importance of distinguishing between mean and median income when discussing retirement, as well as the need for policymakers, financial advisors, and the public to recognize that many retirees do not enjoy the level of prosperity often implied in media coverage. By paying attention to median figures, we gain a clearer understanding of the everyday financial realities confronting older Americans, highlighting both the successes and vulnerabilities within this population. Ultimately, comprehending retirement income in the United States requires looking beyond the headlines and simple averages, recognizing that while a select few may thrive in retirement, the majority of retirees navigate a more constrained financial landscape, balancing limited resources, rising costs, and the gradual erosion of income over time. And it is this median experience that offers the most accurate window into what life after 65 typically looks like for most Americans. For most retirees in the United States, Social Security serves as the cornerstone of retirement income and frequently represents the most reliable source of funds for day to day living, offering a financial foundation that is often both indispensable and irreplaceable. According to data from the Social Security Administration, the average monthly benefit for retired workers hovers around 1,850 per month, which translates to roughly 22,000 per year on a median basis, though these figures can vary depending on factors such as state of residence, years of work history, and earnings over a lifetime. For millions of older Americans, Social Security benefits are crucial for covering essential expenses, including rent or mortgage payments, groceries, utility bills, medical care, and other living costs that form the backbone of day-to-day financial stability. Even though this program provides vital support, it is important to recognize its limitations. Social Security was never designed to fully replace pre-retirement income. Rather, it was intended to supplement other sources of retirement funding, such as personal savings, investments, pensions, or part-time work. In practice, however, the reality for many retirees is that Social Security benefits alone are insufficient to maintain a comfortable lifestyle, particularly given the rising costs of healthcare, housing, and other necessities that tend to outpace the modest annual cost of living adjustments SCOLAS applied to benefits. In 2026, the Social Security Administration implemented a 2.8% COLA, which meant that the typical benefit rose slightly to help offset inflation. Yet, even with such increases, the gap between what retirees receive and what they require for financial security remains significant, creating ongoing challenges for those dependent primarily on these payments. The difficulty is compounded for retirees who have few alternative income streams. Pensions, once a common feature of private sector employment, are increasingly rare, and many Americans have struggled to accumulate substantial savings in retirement accounts such as 401s or IRAs. As a result, Social Security often becomes the default fallback for older adults, not just a supplemental resource, which places considerable pressure on limited monthly benefits to cover a wide array of essential expenses. While Social Security represents a lifeline for many, it simultaneously highlights the structural shortcomings of the system. The typical retiree's monthly payment, even when supplemented with minor savings or small part-time earnings, frequently leaves gaps between actual income and what is necessary to maintain stable financial security. This gap becomes particularly pronounced in the face of unexpected expenses such as medical emergencies, home repairs, or long-term care costs, which can quickly consume a significant portion of limited retirement income. Moreover, the financial strain is often unevenly distributed, with retirees who have modest lifetime earnings or interrupted work histories facing especially tight budgets, making it challenging to preserve dignity and independence in later years. These realities underscore the importance of viewing Social Security not as a comprehensive retirement solution, but as part of a broader, multi-layered financial plan, one that ideally would include personal savings, investment income, and, for those fortunate enough, private pensions. For many Americans, however, the ideal of a fully funded retirement remains out of reach, and reliance on Social Security reflects both the program's vital importance and its inherent limitations. The system provides a baseline of support that prevents widespread destitution among older adults, but it does not eliminate the need for careful financial planning, cost management, or supplemental income. Policymakers, financial planners, and the public must recognize that while Social Security offers crucial stability, it often leaves retirees navigating a delicate balancing act, stretching modest monthly benefits across essential living expenses while confronting rising costs that frequently outpace benefit adjustments. The combination of insufficient private savings, declining availability of pensions, and rising living costs underscores the fact that many retirees experience financial vulnerability despite receiving benefits from one of the most reliable social programs in the nation. Ultimately, Social Security is both a lifeline and a reflection of broader economic realities for aging Americans. It provides critical support, ensures a minimum level of income, and reduces poverty among older adults, but it is rarely enough on its own to guarantee financial comfort, leaving a substantial portion of retirees striving to make ends meet, often prioritizing essential needs and making difficult choices about housing, healthcare, and day-to-day expenses, which serves as a stark reminder of the challenges of sustaining a secure retirement in the modern United States. Articles and financial planners often highlight the goal of retiring with a $1 million nest egg, portraying it as a benchmark of financial security and a key to a comfortable, worry-free retirement. Yet for most Americans, this ideal remains far out of reach, a lofty aspiration that few achieve despite years of saving and planning. Data from multiple surveys, including the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances, illustrate just how rare this milestone is. One analysis found that only about 3.2% of retirees had accumulated 100 million or more in retirement accounts, while broader statistics indicate that just 2.5% of all Americans possess $1 million in retirement savings, highlighting a reality that sharply contrasts with the aspirational narratives often presented in media coverage, financial articles, and retirement planning seminars. For the median retiree, savings levels are far more modest, and these figures paint a picture of financial preparation that is often insufficient for a multi-decade retirement. Among Americans aged 65 to 74, the typical retirement savings balance hovers around $200,000, with even smaller amounts reported for older age groups. While $200,000 may initially seem substantial, when stretched over the decades that retirement often lasts, it can be quickly depleted, especially after accounting for the inevitable costs of healthcare, long-term care, housing, food, transportation, and inflation, which erodes the purchasing power of fixed or modestly growing savings over time. Even when considering all financial assets, including retirement accounts, investments, and home equity, the median net worth for retirees is reported near $288,000, but this figure can be misleading as it includes illiquid assets such as homes, vehicles, or other property that cannot easily be converted into cash for everyday living expenses. Consequently, many retirees face a significant gap between the expectations set by media portrayals or financial benchmarks and the actual resources available to support their lifestyle in retirement. This gap helps explain why Social Security continues to play such a central role in the lives of older Americans, serving as a critical income source that supplements whatever modest savings exist and often prevents financial hardship. At the same time, this reality contributes to why many retirees continue working past the traditional retirement age, taking part-time or flexible employment not for ambition or career fulfillment alone, but as a financial necessity to fill the income shortfall between what Social Security provides and what is required to maintain basic living standards. The reliance on Social Security, modest savings, and part-time work underscores the importance of diversifying income sources and managing expectations, and it also highlights the caution frequently offered by financial planners relying solely on accumulated savings, no matter how diligently amassed, is rarely sufficient to guarantee financial security in retirement. Moreover, the disparity between the widely advertised ideal of a $1 million portfolio and the lived reality of typical retirees serves as a reminder that retirement planning must account for both longevity and rising costs, particularly in healthcare and housing, which can consume large portions of limited resources and quickly erode the purchasing power of even carefully managed savings. While aspirational targets like the $1 million nest egg drive financial advice narratives and media stories, the vast majority of retirees experience a markedly different reality: modest savings that provide only partial support, supplemented by Social Security benefits and occasional income from continued employment, a combination that requires careful budgeting, prioritization, and often difficult trade offs to cover essentials and maintain a basic standard of living. This discrepancy between expectation and reality also reflects broader economic factors, including wage stagnation, the declining availability of traditional pensions, and the challenges of accumulating sufficient savings in a system where many Americans face limited access to employer sponsored retirement plans, high costs of living, and market volatility that can reduce investment growth. Taken together, these realities create a complex financial landscape for retirees where achieving the media promoted ideal is extraordinarily rare, and the typical retiree must rely on a combination of Social Security, modest personal savings, and sometimes ongoing employment to sustain financial stability, illustrating the profound difference between statistical ideals, aspirational targets, and the lived experience of retirement in contemporary America, and highlighting why policymakers, planners, and individuals must approach retirement with realistic expectations, diversified strategies, and an awareness of the limitations of saved assets alone. Retirement income in the United States is far from uniform, and the financial realities faced by older adults can differ dramatically depending on a wide range of factors, including geographic location, demographic characteristics, employment history, and individual life circumstances, illustrating that the notion of an average retiree is largely a statistical construct rather than a reflection of a universal experience. Geography plays a particularly significant role in shaping retirement income, as local economic conditions, cost of living, and labor market patterns influence both the ability to save during working years and the ongoing financial resources available in retirement. Surveys consistently show that retirees living in the District of Columbia enjoy some of the highest average incomes in the country, a reflection not only of historically higher wages and employment opportunities in that region, but also of the concentration of well-paying government and professional jobs that support more substantial savings and retirement accounts. In contrast, states such as Indiana, along with several others in the Midwest and South, often report some of the lowest average retirement incomes, illustrating how regional economic disparities translate directly into the financial security of older adults. These geographic differences extend even to Social Security benefits, which are influenced by lifetime earnings and work histories. Median monthly benefits, for example, can vary by several $100s from state to state, meaning that a retiree in one part of the country may receive substantially more per month than someone with a similar work history in another region, simply due to variations in wages, employment patterns, and cost of living adjustments. These differences highlight the uneven distribution of retirement resources across the nation and underscore that location is a key determinant of financial well-being in later life. Beyond geography, retirement income also varies significantly by age, with younger retirees, typically those between 65 and 69, generally reporting higher incomes compared to older brackets, such as those aged 75 and above. This decline is largely due to the natural reduction in labor earnings as retirees exit the workforce and become increasingly dependent on fixed income sources such as Social Security, personal savings, and any pensions they may hold. Moreover, demographic factors such as gender, education level, and career trajectory play a substantial role in shaping retirement outcomes. Women, for example, often face lower retirement income than men due to historical wage gaps, career interruptions for caregiving responsibilities, and fewer years in high paying positions, which cumulatively reduce both retirement savings and Social Security benefits. Education and occupation also influence the ability to accumulate wealth during working years, with higher educational attainment generally correlating with higher earnings, more robust retirement accounts, and greater financial literacy, all of which contribute to more secure retirements. These disparities combine to produce a broad spectrum of retirement experiences, meaning that while some retirees enjoy financial comfort and the ability to maintain their preferred lifestyles, others must navigate limited resources, make difficult trade-offs, and rely heavily on Social Security and supplemental income streams to meet basic needs. The interaction of these factors, geography, age, gender, career history, and education, demonstrates that retirement income cannot be accurately represented by a single average or even a single median figure, as such measures mask the profound variation within the retiree population. Even within the same state or city, the range of incomes can be substantial, reflecting differences in employment history, access to employer-sponsored retirement plans, personal savings habits, investment success, and family circumstances. This complexity also explains why financial planning for retirement is highly individualized, requiring attention to personal circumstances, projected lifespan, anticipated healthcare costs, and local economic conditions that affect housing, transportation, and living expenses. The diversity of retirement experiences further underscores the importance of distinguishing between statistical averages and real-world outcomes, as headlines citing average retirement income may inadvertently mislead by presenting a simplified picture that fails to capture the challenges faced by many older adults, particularly those with interrupted work histories, lower lifetime earnings, or limited access to financial planning resources. Ultimately, understanding retirement income in America requires a multidimensional perspective that considers not only national averages or median figures, but also the geographic, demographic, and socioeconomic factors that shape how resources are accumulated and spent over a lifetime. The variability in retirement income highlights that there is no single typical retiree, and financial security in later life is the result of a complex interplay of work history, savings behavior, Social Security entitlements, local cost of living conditions, and demographic realities, producing a retirement landscape in which outcomes can range from comfort and abundance to modest subsistence, reinforcing the idea that statistical averages are useful for broad understanding but do not adequately capture the lived experience of the majority of retirees in the United States. Public perceptions of retirement income in the United States are frequently shaped by optimistic projections, financial marketing, and media coverage that often emphasize wealth, comfort, and the accumulation of substantial retirement portfolios, leading many Americans to assume that most retirees live financially secure and even affluent lives. Headlines touting record high Social Security benefits, booming retirement portfolios, or the supposed rise in retiree wealth reinforce the belief that older Americans are well positioned to enjoy decades of leisure without financial strain. Yet a closer look at the data, particularly median figures that better reflect the typical retiree's situation, reveals a far more modest reality, highlighting that the average retiree often relies on a combination of limited resources to maintain a basic standard of living. Surveys show that many Americans still believe they need between 1.2 million and 1.5 million to retire comfortably, a benchmark that is often repeated in financial media, planning tools and investment advice, yet this magic number remains well above what the typical saver has actually accumulated. Even as shifting economic conditions, lower projected returns, or slightly adjusted cost of living assumptions cause some retirement goal estimates to decline modestly, the gap between expectations and reality remains substantial, leaving a majority of retirees navigating a financial landscape that is far more constrained than popularly imagined. Most retirees depend on multiple income streams to sustain themselves. Social Security provides a foundational, relatively predictable benefit. Personal savings and retirement accounts allow for supplemental withdrawals. Small pensions or annuities, where available, contribute additional funds, and increasingly, part-time or flexible work serves as a critical source of income for those whose other resources are insufficient. Yet even when combined, these income streams often fall short of the commonly cited retirement targets recommended by planners, underscoring a stark mismatch between the financial resources available to most Americans and the levels of wealth they are led to believe are necessary for a secure retirement. This gap between expectation and reality highlights a central truth about retirement income in the United States. It is less a story of affluence and abundance and more a story of constraint, careful adaptation, and ongoing financial challenge, where everyday decisions about housing, healthcare, food, and transportation must be carefully balanced against limited means. Understanding this reality is critical not only for those approaching retirement age, but also for younger generations planning decades in advance, as it emphasizes the importance of realistic goal setting, diversified income strategies, and prudent savings habits over reliance on hypothetical wealth or overly optimistic projections. The reliance on multiple income sources reflects both the resilience of retirees and the limitations of the American retirement system, which provides a baseline through Social Security but often leaves gaps that must be filled through personal planning, continued work, or careful management of resources. Moreover, the perception of widespread retiree prosperity can be misleading, masking the considerable variation across the population, where age, gender, career history, geographic location, and education all contribute to disparities in available income and savings. For instance, younger retirees may enjoy higher incomes due to continued labor participation or more robust savings, while older retirees may face declining income and rising medical and living expenses, requiring them to make difficult trade-offs to maintain financial stability. The public narrative of comfortable, well-funded retirement, reinforced by media headlines and financial marketing, can therefore contribute to unrealistic expectations, causing younger workers to overestimate the sufficiency of future benefits or delay necessary planning, while older retirees may feel pressure to stretch limited resources to meet perceived societal standards. By confronting the actual data on median incomes, typical savings balances, and realistic Social Security benefits, it becomes clear that retirement planning must be grounded in pragmatism rather than aspiration alone, accounting for life expectancy, inflation, health care costs, housing, and other essential expenses that define everyday financial reality. In this context, retirement income is less about luxury and more about maintaining independence, covering basic needs, and adapting to the limitations of available resources over time, illustrating the ongoing tension between what people believe retirement will be and what most Americans experience in practice. The mismatch between perception and reality also serves as a reminder of the importance of proactive financial education and planning, ensuring that both current and future retirees develop strategies that reflect their likely income, personal circumstances, and local cost of living realities rather than relying solely on broad averages or media. driven narratives of retiree prosperity and underscores that achieving a secure and stable retirement is less about attaining an idealized $1 million nest egg and more about careful, sustained management of available resources over